All right, we are now joined via Zoom by Dr Metji Makgoba to weigh in on the changing nature of political support in South Africa and the influence of the state of governance. A very good afternoon to you and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon and thanks for having me.
All right, let's talk about your perception with regards to this plan to shut down then tomorrow.
The EFF has managed to mobilize people across South Africa, even though there's been mixed feelings about the nature of the shutdown, considering that South Africa is going through a lot economically and socially. So many people are worried if this shutdown is going to make the situation more severe. But that argument has been countered by other people who are saying that we're already in the state of a crisis. So somebody needs to put meaning to the crisis and crystallize and recognize the state of our crisis so that maybe the government can up the ante in terms of responding to the crisis of energy and the crisis of unemployment.
Yeah. And what do you make of what is being seen as or could be the change in nature of political support? Do you see there being some sort of, some might want to argue, Dr. Makgoba, that there's some sort of a revolution bubbling under. Do you see that as being a correct assessment?
I do not foresee any revolution because politically the EFF does not have the majority support like the ANC in terms of directing the politics in South Africa. But what we see now, we see the movement of resistance building up in terms of holding the ruling elite accountable. And I think in that regard, we need some voices from the grassroots in terms of seeing the nature of politics in South Africa and having people knowing about what's happening and seeing that there's action that is being taken. But in terms of seeing a change, it's going to be difficult because as we have a democratic government that depends on elections and so on, the anger in South Africa has not reached a level where we can see a revolution. That can be determined by how people have been having mixed feelings about the shutdown. If there was a clear message that we are unhappy with what's happening in South Africa and they are mobilizing in terms of changing the dynamics of the economy, that could spur some changes in governance and in the economy in general. But the momentum has not been built up to that level. Probably because the opposition in South Africa is not united, and probably because the nature of the EFF's politics, which has been about centering the black condition at the national scene, and the majority of people are more non-racialist, and black people are the ones that have been suffering under this democracy. But in terms of recognizing that condition, the shutdown is quite important, but whether it could be a revolutionary approach or not, I don't see it happening that way.
All right. You know, earlier on I was speaking to a political commentator. He said that, we can't ignore the political motive of tomorrow's shutdown, and that it seemed to me that, he was saying that we shouldn't just see this as something for the people, but not even be something that's aimed, to help the people, but really something with just political motive. Is that how you see it? And if you do, to what end? I mean, that was the question I also posed there in terms of to what end? I mean, it doesn't mean that after tomorrow's shutdown that the EFF would be signing in more members. I mean, to what end would this be of a political nature and political motive?
I think we can categorize these two issues into two ways. Firstly, it's all about EFF recentering itself into the political national scene. Secondly, it does have some political and social consequences because South Africa is in the state of crisis. And we cannot continue as if nothing is happening. Somebody needs to put meaning to the crisis. The continuous load shedding, it's not normal. The unemployment rate is not normal. The level of poverty in South Africa is not normal. So people cannot sit back and say something is going to be done. Nothing has been done since 1994 in terms of reconfiguring the economy to respond to the crisis, particularly of the youth. If you check the statistics of unemployment in South Africa, the they've been rising since the 2000s. The number is staggeringly high, and it's continued in that nature. So there should be someone saying, let's do something about it. And I think that the shutdown comes in the form of encouraging the government to act, because if they don't see this as a positive way of saying, we want you to do more, it's not necessarily about disrupting the nature of South African politics or the economy itself. It's about recognizing that people are suffering and things cannot continue as normal, as if something has to give, because the nature of political dynamics in South Africa is very abnormal. You mentioned the issues of corruption, the issues of poverty, issues of unemployment, and the issues of land inequality and inequality in general. Those are the issues that actually inspire the march and the shutdown. And these are not issues that you can ignore as if the EFF is merely politicking. These are real issues that need the government to take a decision and to act, and without having to distract the shutdown, they have to come out and say, we recognize what's happening in South Africa and we want to do something about it.
Dr. Makgoba, but do you think that this will indeed encourage the government to act? I mean, they could have actually said, you know what, let's sit down, let's see how we, instead of having this shutdown, what are ways that we can in fact improve? What are ways that we can act? What are ways that we can change the situation? That hasn't been done. Instead, a lot of the effort from the part of government and security cluster has been almost to kind of, to quell the violence and stop the violence that is to happen tomorrow, instead of actually not having the strike altogether. I mean, do you think that this will certainly encourage the government to act?
I think the government has missed an opportunity to respond to this positively. Instead of welcoming the march as a democratic action which affirms the nature of the constitution of the country, they've been actually trying to sidestep the nature of the shutdown. And in that manner, it shows that South Africa, to an extent, is nudging towards a dictatorship. Because if people cannot peacefully vent their anger to the state, it means that we're in trouble. So this society is nudging towards being a sick society in which people cannot demonstrate peacefully. They've been trying to use racist metaphors of trying to categorize the EFF as violent, and that in itself should show you that we're actually a sick nation. So the march is merely crystallizing the problems that are affecting South Africa. And nobody can deny the fact that we live in a state of a crisis. Unemployment, inequality, land inequality, and continuous load shedding. That's a crisis. Somebody has to act. Somebody has to do something about it. But the government has missed it, because instead of welcoming the march and allowing people to exercise their rights, they've been trying to even politicize the march as if this is just mere politicking, whereas those issues are quite genuine and they require a more genuine response from the government.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Metji Makgoba, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being with us here on SABC News. Of course, he was weighing in on the changing nature of political support in South Africa and the influence of the state of governance, of course, on the back of the national shutdown we are expecting tomorrow that is organized by the EFF.